Maya Torres's hands were shaking as she balanced the tray of champagne flutes, and she hated herself for it. 34 years old, and a drunk man's laughter could still make her feel like she was disappearing. The private dining room at Celestine, Manhattan's newest temple to excess, where a single meal cost more than her monthly rent, had been closed off for the evening. 20 guests, all orbiting around one man, Richard Castellanos, tech billionaire, venture capitalist, and according to the whispered conversations Maya had overheard while refilling water glasses, the kind of asshole who thinks his money makes him God. She had been working at Celestine for 8 months, long enough to perfect the art of being invisible, long enough to know which guests wanted warm smiles and which wanted you to pretend you were furniture. Castellanos was the latter, though he'd been watching her all evening with the particular attention wealthy men reserve for things they're considering acquiring. "Miss," he called out, his voice cutting through the polite dinner conversation like a knife through silk. "Another bottle of the Screaming Eagle. And this time, pour it like you actually know what you're doing." Maya felt the familiar burn in her chest, the one that lived somewhere between shame and rage. She set down the tray with practiced precision and moved toward the wine cabinet, her footsteps silent on the imported Italian marble. Behind her, someone laughed, soft, complicit. "Richard, leave the poor woman alone," a woman's voice said, though there was no real conviction in it, the kind of protest that was really permission. "I'm just trying to get quality service," Castellanos replied. "If I'm paying $5,000 for a bottle of wine, I expect it to be poured by someone who doesn't look like she'd rather be anywhere else on earth." Maya's fingers found the bottle. She could feel her pulse in her throat. This was the moment to smile, to apologize, to make herself smaller. She'd done it 1,000 times before. At the diner in Phoenix, where the manager called her sweetheart and paid her under the table. At the catering company in Los Angeles, where a client had grabbed her wrist and no one had said a word. At every job, in every city, where she'd learned that survival meant swallowing things that should have been screamed. She turned, bottle in hand, and walked back to the table. Castellanos watched her approach with the lazy amusement of someone who'd never faced a real consequence in his life. He was 52, tanned in that expensive way that came from private resorts, not actual labor. His suit probably cost more than her car, the 2009 Honda Civic, currently parked 3 blocks away because she couldn't afford the neighborhood parking garage. "You know," he continued, leaning back in his chair as she poured, "I bet you have a lot of thoughts about people like us, people who actually made something of themselves." Maya's hand remained steady. Years of practice. "I bet you think we don't deserve it, that we're just lucky." He picked up his glass, swirled the wine with theatrical precision. "But here's the truth, sweetheart, and I mean this constructively. Some people are meant to serve, and some people are meant to be served. It's not personal, it's just the natural order." The room had gone quiet. Not the shocked quiet of people who thought he'd crossed a line, but the expectant quiet of people waiting to see what would happen next. Entertainment. She was entertainment. "Richard," another voice attempted, male this time, weakly. "Oh, come on," Castellanos waved his hand dismissively. "I'm just having a conversation. She can handle it, can't you?" He looked up at Maya, and his eyes were bright with something that might have been cruelty, or might have been boredom, or might have been both. "You can take a little honest feedback, right? Or are you one of those people who thinks everyone deserves a trophy just for showing up?" Maya set the bottle down on the table. Her voice, when she found it, was quiet. "Would you like anything else, sir?" "See, professional." He grinned at his audience. "This is what I'm talking about. She knows her place." He turned back to Maya. "Although between you and me, you could work on the enthusiasm. When I say pour like you mean it, I mean really sell it. Make me believe you're grateful to be here. Give me some personality." Something in Maya's chest cracked open, not dramatically, not with fireworks or sudden clarity, just a small, quiet breaking, the way ice cracks on a warming lake, inevitable, already in motion long before you hear the sound. "You want personality," Maya heard herself say. The words came from somewhere deep, somewhere she'd been keeping locked and quiet for so long she'd almost forgotten it existed. Castellanos' eyebrows raised. "I'm sorry. You said you wanted personality." Maya's hands had stopped shaking. "You want me to speak like I mean it." The room had shifted. She could feel it, the way air pressure changes before a storm. "Well?" Castellanos smiled wider, leaning forward like a cat that had spotted a bird with a broken wing. "This should be interesting. By all means, speak your mind. I'm always open to feedback from the help." Someone laughed nervously. Maya didn't look to see who. She could stop. She could still apologize, could still retreat into the safe, small space she'd carved out for herself. She could still protect the paycheck she desperately needed, the tips that kept her electricity on, the fragile stability she'd built after so many years of chaos. But instead, Maya opened her mouth and she sang, not words, just a single note, pure and clear and impossibly sustained. It filled the room like water filling a glass, rising and rising until there was no space left for anything else. The note hung in the air for 3 seconds, 4, 5, longer than should have been possible without a breath. It wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. It was the kind of sound that reached inside your chest and rearranged something fundamental. When Maya stopped, the silence that followed was absolute. Castellanos' face had gone blank, not angry, not amused, just blank, like a computer that had crashed mid-process. Around the table, 20 faces stared at her with various expressions of shock, confusion, and something else, something that looked uncomfortably like shame. "That," Maya said quietly, her voice returned to its normal register, "is what it sounds like when someone speaks like they mean it." She picked up her tray and walked toward the kitchen, her footsteps loud in the silence. Behind her she could hear the first stirrings of reaction, murmured confusion, a few awkward laughs. Someone saying, "What just happened?" in a voice too loud for the moment. Maya pushed through the kitchen doors and kept walking, past the sous chef who looked up with wide eyes, past the dish station where Carlos was elbow-deep in soapy water, past the employee bathroom and the manager's office and the time clock where she was supposed to sign out at the end of her shift. She didn't stop until she was outside, standing in the October cold of a Manhattan evening, her thin work shirt no match for the wind coming off the Hudson River. Her hands were shaking again, but this time it felt different. This time it felt like beginning instead of ending. Maya pulled out her phone with trembling fingers, 3 missed calls from her sister, Elena, a text from her landlord about this month's rent, a reminder about the payment plan for her mother's medical bills, the ones that had followed Maya from Arizona like a shadow, growing larger with each passing month. She'd just walked out on a job that paid her $17 an hour plus tips in one of the most expensive cities in America, with exactly $243 in her checking account and a resume that looked like a roadmap of failure. A dozen cities, 24 jobs, all of them temporary, all of them ending the same way. Maya leaned against the brick wall and closed her eyes. She could still hear the sound of her own voice, that single perfect note. She hadn't sung like that, really sung, without holding back, since she was 19 years old, since before her father died and the family fell apart and she'd learned that dreams were luxuries for people who could afford to fail. "Hey!" Maya's eyes snapped open. A woman stood a few feet away, early 40s, wearing an elegant black dress that probably cost more than Maya's entire wardrobe. She'd been at the dinner. Maya remembered her, sitting near the end of the table, mostly silent except for that weak attempt to call Castellanos out. "I'm Diane," the woman said, Diane Chen. I just wanted to—" She paused, seeming to search for words. "That was incredible. What you did in there." Maya felt a laugh build in her chest, bitter and tired. "Yeah, incredibly stupid." "No," Diane said firmly. She stepped closer, and Maya could see her eyes more clearly now. There was something sharp there, something evaluating. "I'm serious. I've been in rooms with Richard Castellanos for 15 years. I've never seen anyone shut him down like that. And that voice," she shook her head. "Where did you learn to sing like that?" "I didn't learn," Maya said quietly. "I just always could." "You always could," Diane repeated, and something in her expression shifted. Okay, I need to ask you something, and I need you to not think I'm insane." Maya almost smiled. "Little late for that. Did you study? Professionally, I mean. Voice training, performance, anything like that?" "Juilliard," Maya said, and the word tasted like ash in her mouth. "For 2 semesters. 15 years ago." Diane's eyes widened. "You went to Juilliard." "I went to Juilliard for exactly 4 months before I couldn't pay tuition anymore, and my dad died, and my mum got sick, and I had to choose between music school and keeping my family from being homeless. So—" Maya shrugged. "I dropped out, worked, moved around, ended up here, pouring wine for people who think I'm furniture." "Jesus," Diane said softly. "Yeah." Maya pushed off from the wall. "Look, I appreciate whatever this is, but I need to go. I need to figure out how I'm going to pay rent next week. And standing in the cold talking about my failed opera career isn't really helping." "Wait." Diane reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. "I produce. Theater mostly. Some off-Broadway. Some experimental stuff. I've been looking for something new, something real. And what just happened in there, that was the realest thing I've seen in years." Maya took the card automatically. Diane Chen, independent producer, an address in Brooklyn, a phone number, an email. "I don't have a specific offer right now," Diane continued, speaking quickly, like she was worried Maya would disappear. "But I want to talk to you, really talk, about what you can do, what you want to do. Because if you can sing like that, if you can command a room like that with literally 1 note, then you're wasting your life carrying wine bottles for assholes." Maya looked down at the card. The paper felt expensive, embossed letters that caught the streetlight. "I've heard this before," she said quietly. "People who say they want to help, people who see potential, it never goes anywhere. It's just talk." "I know," Diane said. "I know you have no reason to trust me, but here's the thing. I was you. Not exactly you, but close enough. 20 years ago, I was waiting tables at a restaurant in Queens, and someone gave me a chance. A real chance. And I took it. And it changed everything." She paused. "I'm not promising you a miracle. I'm just saying, call me tomorrow. We'll meet, we'll talk. And maybe we can figure out how to turn that voice into something more than a moment in a rich man's dining room." Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket. Elena, probably. Or the landlord. Or the collection agency that handled her mother's medical debt. "Okay," Maya heard herself say. "Okay, I'll call you." Diane smiled. Genuine, warm, nothing like the performative smiles Maya had seen inside. "Good. Now go home. Get some sleep, and tomorrow we'll start figuring out what happens next." She turned and walked back toward the restaurant entrance, her heels clicking on the sidewalk. Maya watched her go, then looked down at the business card in her hand. 1 note, 1 moment of refusing to be small, and now this. Maya didn't believe in fate or destiny or the universe conspiring to help people. She believed in statistics and probability and the hard fact that most people who reached for more ended up with less. But standing there in the Manhattan cold, with a stranger's business card in her hand and the memory of her own voice still echoing in her ears, she felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Not hope exactly. Hope was too fragile, too naive. But maybe possibility. Maybe that. Maya tucked the card into her pocket and started walking toward the subway. She had $14 left on her Metro card and a 40-minute ride back to her studio apartment in Washington Heights. She had a phone call to make tomorrow and no idea what she would say. She had a life that was hanging together by threads, and she'd just set fire to one of the few threads that was actually holding. But for the first time in 15 years, Maya Torres wasn't singing in the shower or humming while she worked or keeping her voice locked away like a secret shame. She was walking through the streets of New York City, and she was remembering what it felt like to mean something, even if she had no idea what came next. Maya didn't sleep. She lay in her apartment, 700 square feet of peeling paint and questionable plumbing that cost her $1,900 a month, and stared at the ceiling. The business card sat on her nightstand, white against the scarred wood. 3:17 in the morning, 3:41, 4:05. At 4:30, she gave up and made coffee with grounds she'd been reusing for 3 days. The apartment was cold. Heat was included in rent, but included apparently meant occasionally functional. She wrapped herself in the fleece blanket her sister had sent for Christmas 2 years ago and sat by the window, watching the pre-dawn traffic on Broadway. Her phone showed 6 missed calls from Celestine's manager, Marcus. 2 voicemails she hadn't listened to. A text from Carlos, "Yo, what happened?" Marcus is pissed. Said you walked out mid-shift? She'd walked out. Just left. The first time in her entire working life she'd quit a job without 2 weeks' notice, without an apologetic explanation, without making herself small enough to slip through the cracks without causing damage. Maya picked up the business card again, turned it over in her fingers. On the back, Diane Chen had written something in neat handwriting. "Call me, 11 a.m. I'm serious." 11 a.m. was 6 hours away. Maya had 6 hours to decide whether she was brave enough or stupid enough to make the call. 6 hours to figure out how to explain to Elena that she'd lost another job. 6 hours to calculate how long she could survive on $243 while looking for new work in a city that chewed people up and spit them out with mechanical efficiency. At 7, her phone rang. Elena. Maya considered not answering, but that would only make things worse. "Hey," Maya said. "Don't hey me!" Elena's voice came through sharp and tired. She was calling from Phoenix, where it was 5 in the morning, which meant she hadn't slept either. "Mum's doctor called yesterday about the payment plan. They're saying if we don't make this month's payment, they're sending it to collections." Maya closed her eyes. "How much?" 800. Elena's sigh was audible across 2,000 miles. "Maya, I'm sorry, I know you're carrying most of this, but I'm already working 2 jobs, and Daniel's hours got cut, and—" "It's okay," Maya interrupted, though it wasn't okay. None of it was okay. But what was she supposed to say? Her sister was trying. Their mother was sick. Their father was dead. This was just the reality they lived in now. "I can try to get it together," Maya continued, doing rapid mental math that didn't add up no matter how she arranged the numbers. "Maybe by the end of the week." "Are you okay?" Elena asked, and her voice had shifted to that careful tone she used when she thought Maya was about to fall apart. "You sound weird. I quit my job last night." Silence, then, "You what?" "There was this guy, this rich asshole. He was—" Maya paused, trying to find words for what had happened. "He was being degrading, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I sang." "You sang," Elena repeated flat, one note, right in front of him, in front of everyone. "And then I left." More silence. Maya could hear her sister breathing, could picture her in the apartment they'd grown up in, the one Eleanor still lived in, with her husband and their kid, taking care of their mother in the back bedroom that used to be Maya's. "Okay," Eleanor finally said. "Okay, we're going to figure this out. You're going to find another job, something better, and we'll figure out Mum's bills. We always do." "You can't keep doing this, Maya. You can't keep running away from jobs, from cities, from everything." You're 34 years old. You need stability. You need to— I know what I need, Maya said, sharper than she meant to. I've been taking care of things since I was 19. I think I understand what I need. Do you? Eleanor's voice rose. Because from where I'm standing, you've been running in circles for 15 years. Different cities, different jobs, same problems. When are you going to just settle? Just accept that life isn't what you thought it would be and make peace with it? The words hit like a slap. Maya felt her chest tighten. I have to go, she said quietly. Maya, I'll send you money for Mom's bills. I'll figure it out. I always do. She hung up before Elena could respond. Her hands were shaking again. The coffee was cold. Outside, the sun was starting to rise over the buildings across the street, turning the sky that particular shade of grey-pink that meant winter in New York. Just accept that life isn't what you thought it would be. Maya stood up, walked to the bathroom, and looked at herself in the mirror. 34 years old, dark circles under eyes that used to be bright, hair that needed cutting, a face that looked older than it should, worn down by too many double shifts and too many nights without sleep, and too many years of swallowing things that should have been screamed. She thought about her father, who'd played guitar in dive bars and dreamed of Nashville, and died of a heart attack at 51 while fixing someone's air conditioner. She thought about her voice. The thing he'd said was special, was magic, was going to take her somewhere better. She thought about Juilliard, those 4 perfect months before reality crashed back in. She thought about the last 15 years, all the cities and jobs and moments where she'd made herself smaller and quieter and more manageable. And she thought about last night, the weight of that single note, the look on Castellanos' face, the way the room had gone silent. Speak like you mean it. At 10:45, Maya picked up her phone and dialed the number on the card. Diane Chen answered on the second ring. Maya, I was hoping you'd call. I don't know what I'm doing, Maya said honestly. I don't know what this is or what you want or if I'm just setting myself up for another disappointment. That's fair, Diane said. Can you meet me at noon? There's a coffee shop in Brooklyn near my office, Sweetleaf on Jackson Avenue. I want to talk to you about a project I've been developing. I don't have money for the subway, Maya said, and hated how the words sounded. Desperate, small. I'll send you a car, Diane replied immediately. It'll be at your address at 11:30, that okay? Maya gave her the address, hung up and sat down on her bed. She had 90 minutes to shower, to find something to wear that didn't look like she'd slept in it, to become the version of herself that could walk into a coffee shop and talk about projects and possibilities like she was someone who deserved them. The car arrived exactly on time. A clean black sedan, not a limo, but not a regular Uber either. The driver was professional, silent, and Maya spent the entire 30-minute ride staring out the window and trying not to calculate what this ride was costing. Sweetleaf was the kind of place Maya usually avoided. Exposed brick, expensive espresso drinks, people with MacBooks and startup ideas. Diane was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 coffees waiting. You came, Diane said, smiling as Maya sat down. You sent a car. I did. Because I'm serious about this conversation, and I didn't want transportation to be the reason we didn't have it. Diane pushed one of the coffees toward Maya. Latte, oat milk. If that's wrong, we can order something else. It's fine, Maya said. Thank you. They sat in silence for a moment. Maya sipped her coffee, perfectly made, probably $7, and waited. Okay, Diane finally said, leaning forward. I'm going to be direct with you because I think you're done with people who waste your time. I've been working on a project for the last 2 years, an immersive theater piece about class, voice, and power. It's experimental, but it's funded. I have backers, a venue, everything except the right person at the center. Maya felt her stomach tighten. What kind of person? Someone real, someone who understands what it's like to be invisible, someone with a voice that can't be ignored even when people want to ignore it. Diane paused. Someone like you. You heard me sing one note. I heard you sing one note that shut down a room full of people who think they own the world. I heard you command space without raising your voice. I heard... Diane stopped, shook her head. Look, I've been producing theatre for 20 years. I know what presence looks like. You have it. Maya set down her coffee. I dropped out of Juilliard 15 years ago. I haven't performed since I was 19. I worked as a waitress because that's the only thing I've been able to hold on to. I have medical debt, I have family obligations, I have exactly $200 in my bank account. I can't afford to chase dreams anymore. What if it's not a dream? Diane asked quietly. What if it's a job? A real job with a real salary? $2,500 a week during rehearsals, $3,000 during the run, 12 weeks rehearsal, 16 weeks performance if it goes well, plus health insurance. Maya's brain stuttered over the numbers. $2,500 a week, $3,000. That was more than she'd made in a month at Celestine, more than she'd made in a month anywhere. Why? She asked. Why me? You don't know me. You don't know if I can act, if I can handle a real production, if I can... Because last night you did something nobody else in that room could do. You took your power back in the only way that mattered, by being undeniably, unavoidably yourself. That's what this piece is about. That's what I need. Maya felt tears threatening and pushed them back. She'd learned a long time ago that crying in front of people was a luxury she couldn't afford. What's the catch? She said instead. Diane smiled, sad and knowing. The catch is it's hard. The catch is you'll have to be vulnerable in front of strangers every night. The catch is experimental theatre doesn't usually lead to Broadway or big paychecks or stable careers. The catch is it might fail, and then you'll be right back where you are now, except you'll have spent 6 months on something that didn't work out. So it's a gamble. It's always a gamble, Diane said. But here's what I know. You're already gambling. You're gambling that the next restaurant job will be better, that the next city will be different, that somehow, if you just keep your head down and work hard enough, things will improve. How's that working out? Maya didn't answer. She didn't need to. I'm offering you a different gamble, Diane continued. One where you get paid to use your voice instead of hiding it, where you get to be seen instead of invisible. It might not work, but at least you'll know you tried. Maya looked out the window. Brooklyn morning traffic, people rushing to wherever they were going, living their lives with whatever certainty they'd managed to cobble together. She thought about Elena's words. When are you going to just settle? She thought about her father, who'd settled, who'd put away his guitar and fixed air conditioners and died having never found out what he could have been. When would we start? Maya asked. Auditions are in 2 weeks, but before that I need to know you're serious. I need you to work with a voice coach, get back into shape. I need to see what you can really do. I told you I don't have money for... I'll pay for it, Diane interrupted. Consider it an investment. You work with the coach for 1 week. If it goes well, you audition. If you get the part, we move forward. If you don't, she shrugged, at least you'll have had a week of free voice lessons. Maya laughed, surprising herself. You're either very generous or very crazy. Can't I be both? Diane pulled out her phone, scrolled through contacts. Her name is Patricia Volkov. She teaches at Manhattan School of Music. She's tough, but she's brilliant. I'll set it up for tomorrow if that works for you. I need to find another job. I need to pay my rent and send money to my family. And how much do you need? Diane asked. For this month, to cover everything. Maya felt her face flush. I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm offering. How much? $3,000, Maya said quietly, the number heavy in her mouth. Rent, the payment for her mother's medical bills, food, Metro card, The minimum payment on her credit card. Diane nodded, pulled out her checkbook, an actual paper checkbook, like something from another era, and wrote. She tore off the check and slid it across the table. 3,000, she said. Consider it an advance against your salary if this works out. If it doesn't, consider it payment for taking a chance. Maya stared at the check. Her hands were shaking again. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Diane was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. 23 years ago, I was waiting tables at a Korean restaurant in Queens. I was in debt. I was exhausted. I was pretty sure my life was going to be exactly what it was forever. And then someone, a director who came in for lunch, heard me talking to a customer in Korean and English, switching back and forth, and he asked if I'd ever acted. I said no. He said he was doing a play about immigrant families and needed someone who understood that world. He offered me a part, a small part, but it paid. She paused. That role led to another role, which led to producing, which led to everything I have now. Someone took a chance on me. I'm taking a chance on you. Maya picked up the check. $3,000. Written in neat handwriting on a piece of paper that felt impossibly light for what it represented. Okay, she said. Okay, I'll do it. The voice coach, the audition, all of it. Good. Diane's smile was wide and genuine. Patricia's expecting you tomorrow at 10. Her studio is on West 85th. I'll text you the address. They talked for another hour, about the show's concept, about the venue, about what kind of preparation Maya should do. Diane ordered them both lunch, sandwiches that cost $18 each, which made Maya's stomach hurt until she remembered the check in her pocket. When they finally left the coffee shop, stepping back into the cold Brooklyn afternoon, Maya felt like she'd stepped through a door into a room she hadn't known existed. One more thing, Diane said as they stood on the sidewalk. What happened last night? With Castellanos. He's been calling me, wants to know who you are. Maya's stomach dropped. What did you tell him? Nothing. And I won't. But I wanted you to know. Men like him don't like being embarrassed. If this project goes forward, if you get any attention from it, he'll probably find out. Are you okay with that? Maya thought about Castellanos' face, that lazy cruelty. Then she thought about her own voice, filling the room, impossible to ignore. Yeah, she said. I'm okay with it. She rode the subway home, the check still in her pocket. She deposited it at a Chase ATM, watched the numbers in her account change from 243s. 17 to 3, 243. 17. She called Elena back and arranged a wire transfer for her mother's medical bills. She bought groceries, real groceries, not just ramen and canned soup. She paid her rent early, and then she stood in her apartment, in the space that had felt like a prison that morning, and she sang, really sang, for the first time in years. Her voice filled the small room, bounced off the peeling paint and cracked plaster, and for a moment, just a moment, Maya let herself believe that maybe this time could be different. Tomorrow she would meet Patricia Volkov. Tomorrow she would start rebuilding something she'd thought was dead. But tonight she was just a woman in a tiny apartment in Washington Heights, singing like she meant it. And that, for now, was enough. Patricia Volkov's studio was on the 3rd floor of a building that smelled like old wood and expensive ambition. Maya arrived 15 minutes early, stood outside the door, and seriously considered running. Her hand was raised to knock when the door opened. "You're early," Patricia said. She was maybe 60, rail-thin, with silver hair pulled back in a severe bun and eyes that seemed to see straight through you. "I appreciate punctuality. Come in." The studio was sparse, a piano, a few chairs, mirrors along one wall. Patricia gestured toward a chair and sat at the piano bench, studying Maya with an expression that revealed nothing. "Diane says you went to Juilliard," Patricia said. "For how long?" 4 months, first year, 15 years ago." And since then? Since then, I've been working, restaurants, catering, whatever I could find. And not singing. Not like that, not really. Patricia played a single note on the piano. Match it. Maya sang the note. Her voice felt rusty, uncertain. Again. Another note. Higher. They went through a series of scales. Patricia's face impassive. After 15 minutes, she stopped. "You've been hiding for a long time," Patricia said. It wasn't a question. Maya felt her face grow hot. "I've been surviving." "Surviving," Patricia repeated. "What a terrible waste of a gift." She stood, walked to the window. "You have a rare voice. Probably you already know this, but rare voices are not enough. Talent is not enough." "Do you know what is enough?" Maya shook her head. "Courage," Patricia said. "The courage to be heard when the world prefers you silent. The courage to take up space when everyone wants you small. The courage to fail publicly and try again." She turned back to Maya. "Do you have that courage?" "I don't know," Maya said honestly. "Good. That's the first honest thing you've said. We'll find out together." Patricia moved back to the piano. "We have 1 week. In 1 week, you will audition for Diane's project. In 1 week, I will determine if you are serious about this or if you are simply desperate and looking for an escape. What's the difference? Desperation burns out. Seriousness endures." Patricia's fingers found the keys. "We'll start with breathing. You've been breathing wrong for 15 years. Shallow, protective. We're going to fix that." The next 7 days were the hardest Maya had worked in years. Patricia was relentless. They worked on breath control, on resonance, on releasing tension Maya didn't know she carried in her jaw, her shoulders, her entire body. Patricia made her sing while lying on the floor, made her sing while standing on one leg, made her sing the same phrase 60 times until Maya wanted to scream. "Again!" Patricia would say, unmoved by Maya's frustration. "It sounds the same." "It doesn't. Again." On the 3rd day, Maya broke down. They were working on a piece from Mozart, and Maya couldn't get the phrasing right. And suddenly she was crying, really crying, for the first time since she'd left Phoenix. "I can't do this," she said. "I'm not good enough. I'm too old. I've been away too long. "Stop," Patricia said sharply. "Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Yes, you've been away. Yes, you've lost time, but you're here now. So either commit to being here, fully here, or leave. I have no patience for half measures." Maya wiped her eyes. "Why do you even care? You don't know me." Patricia was silent for a long moment. 20 years ago I taught a girl, brilliant voice, extraordinary potential, but she was afraid. Afraid of failing, afraid of being seen, afraid of wanting too much. She quit after 6 months. I saw her 5 years ago, working as a receptionist at a dentist's office. She looked at me like she wanted to disappear. What happened to her? She settled. She chose safety over possibility. And now she's 45 years old and will spend the rest of her life wondering what if. Patricia's gaze was hard. "You remind me of her. Same fear in your eyes, same way of making yourself small. I will not watch another talented woman waste her life because she's afraid of wanting more." Maya thought about Elena's words. Just settle. Just accept that life isn't what you thought it would be. "I'm afraid," Maya admitted. "Good. Fear means it matters. Now sing." On the 6th day, something shifted. They were working on a contemporary piece, something Diane had sent over as a possible audition song, and Maya stopped thinking, stopped worrying about technique or breath support or whether she sounded good enough. She just sang. When she finished, Patricia was smiling. Actually smiling, which Maya hadn't seen her do once in 6 days. "There," Patricia said. "That's it. That's what I needed to hear." "What changed?" "You stopped performing and started being. Do that tomorrow at your audition, and you'll be fine." The audition was at a black box theater in the Lower East Side. Maya arrived 30 minutes early, her stomach in knots. Diane was there along with two other people, a man in his 30s with a clipboard, and a woman with purple hair and multiple piercings who was introduced as the director, Sam Reeves. "Maya," Diane said warmly, "how are you feeling?" "Terrified." "Good sign," Sam said. She had the kind of intense energy that suggested she didn't sleep much. "Terrified means you care. Walk me through your piece." Maya explained the song, a modern composition about invisibility and voice that Diane had suggested. Sam listened, nodded, then gestured toward the small stage area. "Whenever you're ready." Maya stepped onto the stage. The lights were bright, and she could barely see the three people watching her. She thought about Patricia's words, "Stop performing and start being." She closed her eyes, took a breath that came from the deep place Patricia had taught her to find, and began. The song was 4 minutes long. Maya lost herself in it, in the words about being unseen, about speaking and not being heard, about finding your voice in the silence. She thought about every dismissive comment, every time she'd been called sweetheart or honey, or told to smile more. She thought about Castellanos and his lazy cruelty. She thought about her father and the music he'd never got to make. When she finished, there was silence. Maya opened her eyes. Sam was writing something. The man with the clipboard was staring at her. Diane was smiling. "Okay," Sam said finally. "Questions? What does this piece mean to you?" Maya didn't plan her answer. "It means everything I've never been allowed to say. And if you got this role, what would you bring to it?" "The truth," Maya said. "No performance, no pretending, just the truth of what it's like to be invisible until you decide you're done being invisible." Sam and Diane exchanged a look. Sam nodded. "We have 3 more people to see today," Sam said. "We'll be in touch by tomorrow." Maya left the theater feeling hollowed out and strangely calm. She'd done everything she could. Now it was just waiting. She got the call at 8 p.m. that night. Diane's voice was warm, almost giddy. "You got it. Sam loved you. She said you're exactly what the piece needs." Maya sat down on her bed, phone pressed to her ear, and felt something break open in her chest. Not the small, quiet breaking from the restaurant. This was bigger, like a dam giving way. "Are you there?" Diane asked. "I'm here," Maya managed. I can't believe it. Rehearsals start Monday, 9 a.m. I'm sending over the contract tonight. Welcome aboard, Maya." After she hung up, Maya called Eleanor. Her sister answered on the 3rd ring, sounding tired. "Hey," Elena said. "I got the money for Mom's bills, thank you. Where did you—" "I got a job," Maya interrupted. "A real job, performing. It pays $2,500 a week." Silence. Then, "What?" Maya explained everything. The audition, the project, Diane, Patricia, all of it. When she finished, Elena was quiet for so long, Maya thought the call had dropped. "El, you there?" "I'm here. Elena's voice was strange. "I don't know what to say. This sounds too good to be true." "I know, but it's real. I signed the contract. I start Monday." "Maya," Elena's voice softened. "I'm proud of you. I really am. And I'm sorry for what I said before, about settling." "You weren't wrong," Maya said quietly. "I have been running in circles. But maybe this time it's different." "Maybe," Elena agreed. "Just be careful, okay? Don't put all your hope in this. Don't set yourself up for another fall." After they hung up, Maya sat in the dark of her apartment and thought about hope and fear and the terrifying space between them. She thought about what Patricia had said. Courage is enough. Monday came too fast and not fast enough. Maya arrived at the rehearsal space, a converted warehouse in Bushwick, at 8:30. The cast was small, just 6 people plus her. Sam gathered them in a circle and explained the project. "This isn't a traditional play," Sam said. "It's an experience. Immersive, raw, uncomfortable. We're exploring voice and power. Who gets to speak? Who gets heard? What happens when the unheard demand to be seen? Maya is our center. The rest of you are the world she's pushing against." They started with trust exercises, then moved into improvisation. Sam pushed them hard, making them uncomfortable, forcing them to react honestly rather than perform. By the end of the first week, Maya felt like she'd been taken apart and put back together differently. The second week, they started building scenes. Maya's character, they were calling her V for voice, was a woman invisible to the world around her. The other actors played various roles: bosses, customers, family members, strangers. All of them talked over her, through her, around her, and slowly, scene by scene, V learned to make herself heard. It was exhausting. It was exhilarating. It was everything Maya had been missing for 15 years. On Friday of the third week, Sam pulled Maya aside after rehearsal. "I want to talk to you about something," Sam said. "There's a scene in the second act where V confronts the man who's been silencing her. It's intense, emotional. Based on what Diane told me about how you two met, I'm writing it specifically for that moment." Maya felt her stomach tighten. "You want me to recreate the restaurant?" "Not recreate, reimagine. Make it bigger, make it count. Are you comfortable with that?" Maya thought about Castellanos, about every man like him she'd encountered in 15 years of service industry work, about the look on his face when she'd sung that single note. "Yeah," Maya said, "I'm comfortable with it." The scene Sam wrote was brutal and beautiful. V, after 90 minutes of being ignored and dismissed, finally snaps. She sings, not one note, but a full aria, improvised and furious and heartbreaking, and the world around her has to stop and listen. They rehearsed it 50 times, 100 times. Each time Maya found something new in it. Each time she pushed harder. On the night of their first preview, a small audience of invited guests and industry people, Maya stood backstage, hands shaking, and thought about her father. About the guitar he'd put away, about all the music he'd never made. "This is for you," she thought. "This is for both of us." The lights went down. The audience quieted. Maya stepped onto the stage and she became V. For 90 minutes, she was invisible. And then, when the moment came, she sang. She sang everything she'd been holding back for 15 years, every dismissal, every humiliation, every moment she'd made herself small. Her voice filled the theater, impossible to ignore, and the audience was so silent it felt like the world had stopped breathing. When the lights came back up and the cast took their bows, the audience erupted, standing ovation, actual tears on some faces. Maya stood there, overwhelmed, and felt Patricia's words echo in her head. Stop performing and start being. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. Backstage, Diane was waiting with tears in her eyes. "That was incredible. Maya, that was everything I hoped it would be and more." Sam was already on her phone, texting. The Times critic was here, and someone from the New Yorker. "This is going to be big." But Maya barely heard them. She was thinking about the moment when she'd opened her mouth and sung, and the entire theater had stopped. The moment when she'd taken back her voice. The moment when she'd finally meant it. The review in the New York Times came out 3 days later. Maya read it on her phone while sitting in a coffee shop near the theater, and had to read it 3 times before she believed it was real. Maya Torres delivers a performance of devastating honesty in Sam Reeves's experimental triumph. Her voice, literal and metaphorical, cuts through the pretense of contemporary theatre to deliver something achingly authentic. This is not acting. This is truth, set to music, and it's unmissable. Her phone started ringing. Diane, Patricia, people she didn't know, a reporter from a podcast about experimental theatre, someone from the booking office at Joe's pub, asking if she'd be interested in doing a concert series. The show sold out, all 16 weeks, sold out in 4 days. Sam added performances, still sold out. Suddenly Maya was doing interviews, sitting for photo shoots, being recognized occasionally on the street. It was surreal, it was overwhelming. It was everything she'd dreamed about, and nothing like she'd imagined. 6 weeks into the run, on a Tuesday evening before a performance, Maya's phone rang with a number she didn't recognize. "Is this Maya Torres?" A woman's voice, professional. "Yes, I'm calling from the office of Richard Castellanos. Mr. Castellanos would like to extend an invitation to attend your performance this Friday, followed by a private meeting to discuss potential opportunities." Maya's hand tightened on the phone. "Tell Mr. Castellanos I'm not interested." "Ms. Torres, I don't think you understand. Mr. Castellanos is very influential in the arts funding community. A conversation with him could lead to—" "I understand perfectly," Maya said quietly, "and my answer is still no." She hung up. Her hands were shaking, not with fear this time, but with something else. Anger, maybe. Or power. The power to say no. The next day, Diane called. "So I heard from Castellanos' office. He can't have a ticket," Maya said immediately. "I already told them that. I told them we're sold out and there's a wait list." Diane paused. "He's not happy about it." "Good. Maya." Diane's voice was careful. "He's threatening to pull funding from some projects I've been developing. Nothing to do with this show, but other things. Are you okay with that?" Maya thought about it. About Castellanos and his money and his power and his lazy assumption that everything and everyone could be bought. "Yeah," she said, "I'm okay with it." 2 weeks later, the show got extended. 20 more weeks, with discussions about possibly moving to a larger venue. Maya signed a new contract, $3,000 a week, plus health insurance, plus a percentage of ticket sales. She wired $2,000 to Elena, paid off her credit card, started looking at nicer apartments. But the strangest thing, the thing Maya hadn't expected, was that the success didn't fix everything. She was still tired, still anxious, still woke up some mornings wondering if it would all disappear. 8 weeks in, she called Patricia. "I don't understand," Maya said, sitting in Patricia's studio after a lesson. "I have everything I wanted. Why do I still feel like I'm waiting for it to fall apart?" Patricia smiled, sad and knowing. "Because you've spent 15 years learning that good things don't last. You've built survival skills based on scarcity and impermanence. Now you have abundance, and your brain doesn't know what to do with it. So what do? You give yourself time. You let yourself believe slowly that you deserve this. You stop apologizing for taking up space." Patricia played a soft chord on the piano. "And you remember that this, the voice, the talent, the courage to use it, this was always yours. The circumstances changed, but you didn't. You were always this person. You just finally allowed yourself to be seen." That night's performance, Maya sang differently. Not better exactly, but more present, more certain. She thought about Patricia's words, "You were always this person," and she believed them. After the show, there was someone waiting by the stage door, a woman, maybe 25, holding a playbill. "Ms. Torres," she said nervously, "I'm sorry to bother you, but I had to tell you. I'm a waitress. I've been waiting tables for 6 years, and I hate it, and I keep telling myself I'm going to quit and do something else. But I'm scared. And then I saw your show, and I—" She stopped, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for showing me that it's possible." Maya signed her playbill, gave her a hug, and walked home through the October streets of Manhattan. The same streets she'd walked 3 months ago, terrified and broke, and certain her life was over. Elena called that weekend. "Mom wants to come see the show." "Really?" Really, I told her about it, and she's proud of you, Maya. She won't say it directly, you know how she is, but she's proud. They came 2 weeks later, Eleanor, her husband Daniel, and their mother, flying in from Phoenix. Maya got them tickets, arranged for a wheelchair for her mother, met them at the theater an hour before curtain. Her mother looked older, thinner. The illness had taken its toll, but when she saw Maya, her face lit up in a way it hadn't in years. "Mija," she said, pulling Maya into a hug, "look at you." They sat in the front row. Maya performed knowing they were there, knowing her mother was watching. When she reached the big moment, the aria where V finally claims her voice, she thought about her father, about the music he'd never made, about the dreams he'd passed down to her like an inheritance, and she sang for all of them. Afterward, backstage, her mother held her hands. "Your father would have been so proud," she said in Spanish, her voice thick with emotion. "He always said you had magic in your voice. He was right." Eleanor was crying. "I'm sorry," she said, "for telling you to settle. I was wrong." "You weren't wrong," Maya said gently. "You were scared. We were both scared. But it's okay now." They went to dinner at a restaurant Maya could actually afford now, and talked late into the night about everything and nothing, about the show, about Phoenix, about memories of their father and his guitar. For the first time in years, Maya felt like she had a family again. Not a burden, not an obligation, but a family. The show ran for 32 weeks total. By the end, Maya had saved $40,000. She'd been interviewed by NPR and the New York Times. She'd been offered a recording contract for an album of contemporary classical pieces. She'd been approached about other roles, other projects. But more than that, more than the money, or the attention, or the opportunities, she had her voice back. Not just the literal voice, the singing voice, but the other voice. The one that said she deserved to take up space. The one that said she didn't have to be invisible. On the last night of the show, after the final performance, after the cast party, after all the tearful goodbyes, Maya stood alone on the empty stage. The lights were off, the audience gone, the theater silent. She thought about that night at Celestine, about Castellanos and his casual cruelty, about the moment she'd opened her mouth and sung that single note, "Speak like you mean it, and I'll stop." She'd spoken, and she hadn't stopped, and the world had listened. Maya pulled out her phone and called Patricia. "It's late," Patricia answered, but she didn't sound annoyed. "I know. I just wanted to say thank you for everything, for not letting me quit, for seeing something in me I couldn't see in myself." "You saw it," Patricia said gently. "I just reminded you it was there." "What happens now?" "Now?" Maya smiled in the darkness. "Now I keep going. I have offers, projects, possibilities. But more than that, I have myself back, the part of me I thought I'd lost." "You never lost it," Patricia said. "You just learned to hide it so well you forgot where you put it. Don't make that mistake again." "I won't," Maya promised. 3 months later, Maya released her first album. A collection of contemporary pieces, art songs, and one original composition she'd written herself, a song about invisibility and voice and finding the courage to be heard. It didn't sell millions of copies. It wasn't played on mainstream radio, but it was reviewed well and it opened doors. She started getting calls to perform at festivals, at university concert halls, at small venues around the country. She moved into a better apartment, paid off her mother's medical debt entirely, started helping Elena with bills, not out of obligation, but because she could, because she had enough now, and more than enough. A year after that night at Celestine, Maya was invited to perform at a gala for arts education funding. It was a fancy event, black tie, held at the Plaza Hotel. She almost said no. These kinds of events still made her uncomfortable, reminded her too much of waiting tables at places she couldn't afford to eat. But then she saw the guest list, and there, among the donors and philanthropists and wealthy patrons of the arts, was Richard Castellanos. Maya thought about it for a long time, about whether seeing him again would feel like going backward, about whether she needed any kind of closure or confrontation. In the end, she decided to perform, not because of him, but despite him, because her voice belonged to her now, not to anyone's expectations or cruelty or dismissal. The night of the gala, she sang a piece she'd been working on, something about power and its corruptions, about the difference between being heard and being listened to. She saw Castellanos in the audience, recognized his face even from the stage. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Maybe recognition, maybe discomfort, maybe nothing at all. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. She took her bow and walked off stage, and she didn't think about him again. After the performance, as she was leaving, someone called her name. She turned, and there he was, Richard Castellanos in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, holding a glass of champagne. "Ms. Torres," he said. "I wanted to say, that was quite a performance." Maya looked at him, really looked, and she realized that he was smaller than she remembered. Not physically smaller, but diminished somehow. Just a man with money and insecurities and the need to make himself feel big by making others feel small. "Thank you," she said simply. "I understand you've been quite successful. The show, the album, impressive for someone who was serving wine a year ago." There it was, the little jab, the reminder that he saw her as less than. Maya felt the familiar burn in her chest, the one that used to be shame and rage tangled together. But now it was something else, something calmer, something like pity. "Yes," she said, "it has been a good year. I wanted to apologize," Castellanos continued, and his voice had that practiced quality of someone who'd been told by their publicist to smooth things over. "For that night, I was out of line. I may have had too much to drink." Maya smiled. "You weren't out of line. You were exactly who you are. The difference is, I don't have to accept your treatment anymore." She started to walk away, then turned back. "Oh, and Mr. Castellanos, you told me some people are meant to serve and some are meant to be served. You were right. The difference is, I chose to stop serving you. Good evening." She walked out of the plaza and into the New York night, and she felt lighter than she had in 15 years. 2 years after that night at Celestine, Maya Torres was teaching, part-time, at a community music program in the Bronx. She worked with kids who couldn't afford private lessons, who had talent and dreams and no clear path forward. She also performed select engagements, projects that interested her, collaborations with artists she respected. She'd been offered bigger opportunities, more mainstream success, but she'd learned to be selective, to choose work that meant something over work that paid the most. She'd learned that success wasn't about being the biggest or the loudest or the richest. It was about being heard on your own terms. One Saturday morning, teaching a class of teenagers, she asked them to introduce themselves and share why they wanted to sing. A girl raised her hand, 16, nervous, wearing a fast food uniform from the shift she'd just come from. "I want to sing because I feel invisible everywhere else, like nobody sees me or hears me, but when I sing, I'm real." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "I know exactly what you mean. I felt that way for a very long time. But here's what I learned. You were always real, always worthy of being heard. Sometimes we just need someone to remind us, and sometimes we need to remind ourselves." She had the students practice, breathing exercises first, the same ones Patricia had taught her. Then simple scales, then more complex pieces. She pushed them hard but kindly, the way Patricia had pushed her. At the end of class, the girl in the fast food uniform approached her. "Miss Torres, I looked you up. I saw videos of your show, the one about finding your voice." What did you think? I think you meant it, the girl said. Every word, every note, you really meant it. Maya smiled. I did, and so can you. That night, Maya sat in her apartment, bigger now, nicer, but still in Washington Heights, because she'd grown to love the neighborhood, and she thought about the journey from there to here, from that night at Celestine to this moment. It hadn't been easy. Success hadn't fixed everything. She still had anxiety, still had doubts, still had moments where she felt like she was one mistake away from losing it all. But she also had something she'd never had before: certainty. Not certainty about the future, but certainty about herself, about her worth, about her right to take up space and be heard. She thought about her father, buried in Phoenix, his guitar gathering dust in Elena's closet. She thought about all the music he'd never made, all the dreams he'd deferred until it was too late. And she thought about the promise she'd made to herself that night when she'd walked out of Celestine. Never again. Never again would she make herself small. Never again would she hide her voice to make someone else comfortable. Maya picked up her phone and scrolled through her contacts until she found Diane's number. "Hey," she said when Diane answered. "I've been thinking about something. You know how you took a chance on me when nobody else would?" "Of course. I want to do that for someone else. I want to create opportunities for artists who don't have access, who don't have connections, who just need someone to believe in them, and I want you to help me figure out how." "Maya Torres," Diane said, and Maya could hear the smile in her voice. "Are you telling me you want to produce?" "I'm telling you I want to build something that helps people find their voices, because someone did that for me, and I want to pass it forward." "When do we start? Tomorrow?" Maya said. "We start tomorrow." After they hung up, Maya walked to her window and looked out at the city. The same city that had almost broken her. The same city that had remade her. The same city where 1 year ago she'd been serving wine to people who saw her as invisible. She thought about the girl in her class, desperate to be heard. She thought about all the people out there, waiting tables, working retail, sitting in office cubicles, who had voices worth hearing and no platform to use them. And she thought about Castellanos, about the moment he'd told her to speak like she meant it, never imagining she would, never imagining she could. Maya Torres smiled and turned away from the window. She had work to do, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of doing it. She meant it, every word, every note, every choice. And she wasn't going to stop.